Hey, everybody, welcome to the Nation. That's Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with my Hall of Fame co host, Leanne Whippen, coming to you from our Turn It, Don't Burn It studios, respectively, in Portland and Tampa. We hope you're all having a great day out there. Before we get into the show, we'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. Well, today's guest is one of those folks that has a lot of influence and effect on the food world and the barbecue world, but you don't hardly ever see him. It's David Eaheart, the Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing for Seaboard Foods. You might know that better as Prairie Fresh. And David, welcome.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
It's a pleasure to meet you finally. I think we've passed. I won't say we passed in the night, but we've passed somewhere along the way like that.
Yeah, we have, and had the good fortune to hang out with Leanne several times at several events, but haven't.
Yes, I recall.
Well, you guys want to talk about that? I mean, go ahead. It's kind of a fun thing. I feel left out here. So anyway.
Well, obviously it crosses the path of barbecue, which, that's my life. So yeah, and Prairie Fresh is a big part of barbecue. The competitors almost exclusively use the product and win a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, good. So, David, how did you get into doing this? We'll get a little background on you here.
Well, it started at a pretty young age for me. I actually grew up on a pig farm in central Missouri. So I have never not had pigs and pork in my life. And my career actually started out as with some pork clients as well. So my background is I grew up in the pig farm in central Missouri, went to the University of Missouri, majored in agricultural journalism, and went to work for Successful Farming Magazine as a livestock editor. Then went back to school, got an MBA, and then worked for a public relations firm that had the National Pork Producers Council as its client. And from there, I then went to work for Farmland Industries, ended up at Seaboard about 23 years ago.
Wow.
In a company that specializes only in pork. So all those career moves led to that. And over the time, I started dabbling in barbecue, had some really good friends that competed. One of my coworkers, her parents had a barbecue competition team. So in the late 1990s, I was down at the American Royal when it was down in the bottoms. Got my first taste of competition barbecue. And I was hooked from then. And then it kind of just evolved. I don't know if I made it happen or not, but now I have barbecue pretty much every day in my life, along with some great pork products.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
It is.
When you were cleaning out the pig pens on the farm you grew up on, did you ever think you would end up someplace like this? Was that your desire?
No, because actually this type of model that Seaboard Foods has and the industry's changed so much that I didn't even really envision a company like this because it didn't exist at that time. I was on a family farm, very traditional, what it was back in the 1980s and 90s, where we had 50 sows on our farm. We had a lot of row crops, livestock as well with cattle. And so it's just a whole different model. I knew that I wanted to stay in agriculture and food. That was my one goal. So my careers followed that, but I never dreamed that I would actually still be so closely tied to farm operations and also then get to have the experience on the food side of it as well. It's for me, it's a perfect blend because I get to deal with farmers every day, but I also get to deal with those who are involved in cooking food and preparing it from restaurants to actually competition barbecue teams. And
Wow. That's a great story. What did your day look like? I mean, when you say you're senior comms director, I've worked in the ag business and also the media business for a long time. I can just see like my inbox fills up with probably 100 PR requests every day and stuff for and I just got one for Thanksgiving already this year. Do you want to tell stories about our turkeys? And I'm like, call me in 6 months,
yeah,
type
we're
thing.
going to think that for it varies every day. But like today, I'll kind of give you some examples of things that I've worked on. I've had requests, done some media. I'm working on some website content for us. One of our processing plants is getting ready to sponsor a benefit that is in Sioux City, Iowa, that actually has a competition barbecue component to it. So I've been coordinating those efforts with them. I think I've had 3 or 4 teams request this today by email, asking about either product availability or what we might be doing at a couple of competitions. And then I also do a lot with our customers. So that can be our retail, food service customers, barbecue stores. We get a lot of questions asked about how we raise the animals, how we process the pork. What are some of the things from a quality factor that we have? And so from a communications perspective, I'm dealing with the media requests, but I'm also dealing with customers and answering and helping educate them on the processes that we do that makes our product unique within the marketplace itself too.
That's
Is
kind of a
is Prairie Fresh, like, what's the ratio of pork to chicken?
So we only do pork. So
Only pork.
yeah, so we're what we call a connected food system. So there are actually 6 producer owners within our system that own all the animals. And so Seaboard Foods is one of those. We have a partner company called Triumph Foods. There's 5 producers that own that company, but Seaboard Foods does all the marketing and sales of the product. So we own everything from the breeding stock to the farms to the processing plants, and it's 100% all pork products.
That's become a big deal. You touched on it just a second ago about the care, custody, and control of the animals. 25 years ago, nobody thought about that very much. There was a rack of ribs or a frying chicken in a package at your store, and that was it. But now it's like, what do you feed them? Are they free range, if you will? Are they humanely treated? Are you injecting them with hormones and steroids and that? Do you think that came out of a social consciousness or just people more concerned about what they're eating, or maybe both? I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of both. Um, some of it, to be candid, is a little bit activist driven that may not have the same beliefs and values and opinions about eating meat products. And we believe everyone should have a choice on what they choose to eat. And we're okay if you decide not to eat pork. But if you're going to eat pork, we want everyone to know that we're doing all we can to, first of all, from a food safety standpoint, produce it wholesomely, but also that the animals are taken care of properly. And we actually, our consumer data shows that consumers actually want to know where their food comes from. They may not necessarily want to know every detail, but they do want to know that it's wholesome, that if it's, an animal-based product, that it was raised properly. And so having that story to tell, and it's, I always cautious about the word story because sometimes that can mean that it's not necessarily something we made up, but it's what we do. We're telling that story. And as an industry, we're trying to do a better job of that so that consumers and customers actually understand where their pork comes from, the reasons why we do that, because it really all comes down to the product itself. We want every rack of ribs to be as close to the next one right after the other as it can be. And that comes from what's happened within the industry because we have so much more control of where the genetics that go into the animals, the feed programs, and the way that we actually handle and the processing part of it. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of research that happens within our own company that's proprietary to us, but also as an industry that we're doing to make improvements so that ultimately the consumer has a better eating experience. Because you probably remember 25 years ago, the industry went super lean. Pork started to get a bad reputation.
Right.
Because it was really hard to cook, especially like the pork loin. And so that's what really been focused on, bringing back that quality and that great eating experience back to the consumer. And, we hear that even from competition barbecue today too, that's what they really appreciate about our product is the consistency of it.
It always kind of stuns me, and we've all done this. We've been in stores, been around demos, done demos, what have you. One of my favorite things to do is when somebody walks up and says, I'm a vegetarian, I look at them very sincerely and say, I can fix that, and it's always kind of a little tongue in cheek thing. But I do believe that, and I think Leanne would agree with me, that people are concerned about what they're consuming. It's nice to know. And like you said, David, they don't want to get down and say, we clean the pens 3 times a day or something like that. But they want to know that they're not that they have, for a hog, they have a fairly comfortable life.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very cushy life, I'd say. I actually can go out on the farms fairly often. Partly because just growing up on a pig farm, I just like time spending with the pigs. For me, it kind of brings back good memories. It's a fun time. But also I see what, for me to be in the marketing position and communications position for the company, I really need to see what's happening, understanding out there on the farm.
Right.
And, it is, I mean, compared to when I grew up on a farm, the way that our animals are treated today, it's vastly different. And when I say it's a cushy life, it is, because they're, basically in a climate controlled barn, we have strict biosecurity so that disease doesn't come in and wipe out the herd, partly because we don't want to be giving them a lot of extra medications. And the best way to do that is to keep them healthy from the beginning.
Right.
They're comfortable. All they do is sleep and eat all day. It's a pretty good life.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do it. In result, I probably wouldn't look forward to.
Yeah.
But the middle part, I would be very much down with that. Real quick before we go to break, David, I love that picture on your right shoulder there.
Yeah.
Of
Right.
that's a great picture.
So my coworker actually painted that for me, and that is we have what we call I Love Barbecue Pig. It's a 4x6 replica of a pig that we take to a lot of events, and it's that pig that
And it
she,
has those colors too, right?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I've
that is
seen
actually
it.
all the colors that we use on packaging within the Prairie Fresh brand. So there's a
Ah,
lot of hidden meaning behind it.
I love that. That's
Yeah, it's
very
great.
cool. We're talking with David Eaheart, Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing at Seaboard Foods, excuse me, which is Prairie Fresh. And we're going to learn more about hogs in just a minute and the way they come to market. And, there's a lot of hogs out there and you guys control a lot of them. So I'm really fascinated with this. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back with David and Leanne just a second. Don't go away. You're listening to BBQ Nation. Welcome back to BBQ Nation. I'm JT along with Leanne Whippen. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter or X, Instagram, all those places. We're pretty easy to find. So if you have a question or something or want to reach out to us, just use one of the platforms and it'll get right to us. We're talking with David Eaheart, the Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing for Prairie Fresh, i.e. Seaboard Foods. So you went down to the Royal, had a little competition barbecue, you got hooked. Easy to do, I must say, very easy to do. What was it like? Do you remember when you put that first piece of competitive barbecue in your mouth?
It was a different experience than what I ever had before with regular barbecue.
Yeah.
I grew up obviously on a farm, but we did what I consider to be grilling. We didn't really ever smoke any meats. My parents didn't. So for me as a kid, was going into town a lot of times. There was this little old house that had a restaurant in it. I don't remember what the name of it was, but that's where we went to get barbecue. And that was like one of my favorite things to do as a kid. But when I actually got to taste true competition barbecue, um, I there's just something about probably the atmosphere as well helps with it, the smells that come with it, but just enjoying something that was perfectly um, tender and juicy, and the bite of it it left the lasting impression, and I enjoy it still today. Partly because I think part of my experience growing up with a kid was that grilling experience. My dad liked things well done. So my experience, what I thought barbecue up to that time was something you take a bite of and then you chew and you chew and you chew and you chew, because it was tough and dry, and you smother in sauce trying to get it down. And I really had not had that experience until I actually got to my, one of the first competitions at the Royal.
Well, do you think that came from, I mean, our barbecue experiences on our farm when I grew up, same thing. I mean, if it didn't come out like shoe leather, it wasn't done.
Yeah.
So, do you think that came from the old kind of wives' tale adage? And there was some truth to it, but you just got to cook the hell out of the pork because you might get trichinosis or something,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm sure that was part of it from my grandparents. And, my dad was the generation that, when he was a kid, probably you did have a chance of getting it if you didn't,
Yeah.
but, the US has been free of that. Herds have been for years now. So fortunately we can cook pork to the right temperature now. And, if you're doing a pork loin, to the 145 and have a great experience.
Yeah. Now, Leanne, she wears Duroc #5 as far as cologne, but what kind of hogs are you raising back there?
So it's a crossbred market hog. So on our female side or the south side, it is a crossbred between a landrace and a large white. And then our sire lines are all Duroc. So
Leanne, there you go.
I have a funny story. Back in the Wood Chicks days, I don't know, it was around 2004, 2005. In the restaurant, I would usually get Smithfield ribs and they were out and they subbed with Seaboard. And I was like, I never heard of these guys. And I cooked them and I was like, these are fantastic. They were for a time there, my like secret weapon, in ribs. And they've even come further now. I mean, obviously you can look at the teams that are, mentioning your name and everything. But yeah, I remember back in the day, but I thought they were owned by someone else. Or
No.
have they've always been on their own?
Yeah, we've always been on our own. Yeah.
Okay.
So our parent company is Seaboard Corporation, which has been in an agribusiness since about 1910. They started as a flour milling company in the United States, but now it's a global international company. They don't have flour mills in the United States any longer. Seaboard Foods, the pork division, is actually the largest division for them, but it's all US based. We do have a processing plant in Mexico that we actually process and bone hams to sell to the Mexican market, but all our operations are here. All of our farms and all of our processing plants are here in the United States.
David, did you bring the barbecue? Were you the guy that was the impetus of getting Prairie Fresh in the barbecue world and the competition world?
Yeah, it started when we started building. I mean, we started really as even our brand for a long time was Seaboard Foods or Farms. We switched to foods when we did acquired a bacon company in 2005 and changed the word to foods. But we started really working on the brand in earnest probably about 10 years ago. And so, as we, especially on the food service side, we started to grow that business and we started getting, just like Leanne mentioned, our name out there.
Yeah.
Restaurants started realizing the quality of the product. And so it kind of started, we're like, well, what do we do to build the brand? And we're like, well, can we build an ambassador program? Because we didn't have huge marketing, budgets at that time. And started kind of discovering that all of a sudden we had some fairly well-known barbecue restaurants that were using our products. And so we started that, and that really, we came into the competition barbecue world even a little bit differently. So that was happening at the same time. And then Operation Barbecue Relief had started.
Right.
And so there was a tornado in Moore, Oklahoma, which is outside of Oklahoma City. And we had a couple of employees that had family members that were impacted by that tornado. And so through the grapevine, we talked to OBR a little bit prior to that, but realized that there was an opportunity for us to give some product. And with that relationship started with OBR. And then we discovered we even had more teams that were starting to use the product. And we realized this is a great way for us to basically go out and build the brand, because people trust, whoever, even if it's competition barbecue or the backyard barbecue, they're going to ask their neighbor, or they're going to, if they have a neighbor that's a competition team, what products do they use? And really that's how we got slowly involved into the barbecue world, and then really started promoting it here several years ago, probably 6, 7 years ago. And so I was, charged with that. I had a personal passion for it, so it was
Sure.
a fun thing to do. And that's kind of how we ended up in this through Operation Barbecue Relief and some of our key food service customers, and then how we built out relationships from there, and then really got ourselves ingrained in competition barbecue.
Well, that's one way to do it. You get out there and do that. And sometimes I found out that it's kind of hard to say no to Stan Hayes. I found that out personally. I think Leanne would back me up on that. But
Yes.
yeah,
It's a great organization, and
It sure is.
we're so grateful that we get to be part of that. And it's been fun to see the organization grow over the years.
there you go. We're going to take another break. We're going to be back with David Eaheart from Senior Director of Comms over at Prairie Fresh, and Leanne and myself, and we're going to find out about David's cooking prowess when we return here on Barbecue Nation. Welcome back to the nation. I'm JT, along with Leanne Whippen, Hall of Famer, of course. Again, we'd like to thank Painted Hills Natural Beef the way nature intended, and that's your cue, Leanne. Pig powder.
That's pig powder.
Yes.
Yes. That is the rub that me and my sister distribute, and it has won many awards, including Best Rub on the Planet, and a lot of competition cooks use it. One I know got a perfect 180 on pork recently, so it's good on pork, chicken, French fries, baked beans. It's very versatile. So go to pigpowder.com.
Have you ever given David some?
I have not. I'm trying to think. I think the last time I saw him was in Kansas City in the snow.
Oh yes, when we did the BBQ, yes. The only time I ever had to shovel snow to actually get
I was awful
Yeah.
cooking in that. I remember that well.
Well, maybe you guys can
I'll have to get him
swap
some
some.
pig powder. Yes, I
Yeah,
will
get
do
him
that.
some pig powder. We're talking with David Eaheart, Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing over there at Seaboard Foods, i.e. Prairie Fresh. So, progressing on your life timeline, David, you started farm, dad cooked your chops or ribs or whatever, down to the consistency of red brick, so to speak. But if I'm saying it wrong, you let me know. But now that you've been around the competition barbecue and stuff for a number of years, and Operation Barbecue Relief, how have your cooking skills progressed?
Significantly, because I have had the good fortune to be in the trailers of some world champions many times. So I take a lot of those techniques. I do, I have my own smoker at home. So I do a lot of stuff for family and friends when I have time. If I'm not out on the barbecue trail, following around all the teams. So it's really expanded. I also had the good fortune that Seaboard Foods put me through culinary school about 15 years ago. So that is when I had a passion for food prior to that, but that's when I really developed a lot of my skills. And one of my culinary instructors loved to smoke meat. So we obviously had a bond there that
Oh yeah.
I would expand on from there.
Well, I noticed on the website, I was looking at some of the food pictures and stuff, and it wasn't all barbecue. You had some very high end like images. If you went into a 4 or 5 star restaurant, you would look at that and go, and they were beautiful images. It made my mouth water. Did you do those?
Yeah, so my side hobby is I do food sport as well, but I typically don't do barbecue. I got into pie baking, and with that, I've been in the National Pie Championships, have
Oh,
won that
wow.
once. And then
What kind of pie did you make?
so it's interesting pie. It has a little story to it. They always do a whimsical category. There's always the traditional categories in it. But in 2019 when I went, it was my favorite vacation was the pie theme for that category. And so it was based off of some rye bread ice cream I had in Iceland on a vacation. So it was a toasted cinnamon rye bread cream pie.
Oh.
So it was pastry cream that had
Wow.
rye bread in it, and it had a Swiss meringue and a rye bread crumble on the top of it.
Leanne, you
That
got to swap out your picture to your pecan pie
I
behind
have,
you.
yeah, I know. I've never heard of a pie with rye bread in it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. When you were over there, what they give you, lefse or something for if you did it over there across the pond?
Well, the contest was here in the US, but
Oh, I know, but
the ice cream that I have is a rye bread ice cream in Iceland. In Iceland, yeah, I had some interesting food.
Yeah.
Some delicious food, and then some that was an
Not
experience.
so delicious.
did you eat this little sidebar question, but did my wife's part Norwegian and she's been up there a couple times and but I told her, do not bring me back a can of Viking fish. I don't know, there's a name for it and it evades me right now, but there's a product that they actually manufacture there, but it's fish the way the Vikings used to eat it. It's in a can, and if you open the can, it damn near knocks you off your feet anyway with the odor. But
Yeah.
and I've seen some guys on TV try to taste it, and I'm pretty
It's an
adventurous.
acquired taste, I
It's an
assume.
acquired taste, yeah.
Fermented. Yeah, it's fermented. I will try anything once. That was more than enough.
Back to the hogs here. I have a question. I've been to quite a few butchery classes and they talk about different cuts that you can get out of the animal and what's trending. Is there anything trending right now?
Probably not surprising. I mean, pork belly has been really hot more on
Right.
food service, but we're starting to see increased demand of that at the retail level because people are having that experience at a restaurant and wanting to replicate it at home.
Right.
So we are actually just getting ready to launch what we call a quarter belly. So it's going to be more manageable for a consumer.
That's
That'll
great.
be coming out this summer, so you don't have to do the whole 13-pound belly at once. So that's probably one of the biggest things. The other thing is trending cuts. Anything to do, we're seeing a lot more smaller cuts. So the way people eat and cook now, especially at the consumer level when they're buying retail, that they don't necessarily want the whole pork butt, even though it's a great value for them. They want
Right.
something that's more manageable and easier for them to cook. So anything we can do to simplify that,
And
even
cooks
simple time.
faster too.
Yeah.
I recall, didn't you come out or don't you have a product that you identify as Prime?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have our brand name is Prairie Fresh USA Prime. We've had that out for about 2.5, 3 years probably now. So we actually have a proprietary process that after it's almost immediately when the carcass is on the rail, we have a process where we can actually, some technology that measures the intramuscular fat of the carcass. And then we segregate those out to our Prairie Fresh USA Prime line. So on average, you're going to see marbling scores that are about 3.5 and above if you look in the loin eye. We also validate on the cut floor with the loin, but that way we can have a consistent product. It's been very successful for us, very successful in the competition world. The pork butts, I've seen teens post pictures on Facebook, and every once in a while I'm like, I think they photoshopped that. I mean, that's how much marbling is, and it's
Right.
consistent. That's the thing, is that it's consistent. So it's taking the best of our best product. USDA doesn't have grading, but they do allow grading terms and product brand names. So I'm always very careful to tell you that it is a brand name only, but we are measuring the marbling within that carcass.
So what do you think it is? 2% of what you put out, it fits into that category? I'm
It's a little
guessing. I'm
bit,
just
I can't share the exact numbers, but I can tell you it's a little bit higher than that, actually. And
okay.
the neat thing about it is kind of one of the next steps that we want to take with that is now can we, because of our connected food system, can we go back and look at those farms that are producing those carcasses? What can we do to get a higher population of those highly
Right.
marbled carcasses? Because in theory, the genetics, the feed programs are pretty similar, but there still are differences because our geography or where our pigs are raised are from Texas to Minnesota, Colorado to Illinois. So you have
Right.
some environmental factors. So there are some differences in the feed ingredients just from a, energy. Is that impacting it? We don't know yet, but that's one of the research projects that we would like to see happen.
Now you said you're Prairie Fresh Seaboard, that you own all the hogs, or do you have feeder farms that meet your requirements in the breeding aspects and, no injectables or anything like that going forward? Do they come into the program and then come under the umbrella?
So all the market pigs that are raised are from one of the 6 producer owners within our
Okay.
system. We do have some contract owners that we will provide them with the nursery pigs, and they'll finish them out to our feed ingredients and animal welfare requirements. But the animals themselves are all owned within the ownership of our system.
So when you feed them out, is it similar to what they do with cattle? I mean, you heard me a couple times mention Painted Hills, which is a beef company that I've worked with now for a number of years. They have their own feedlot. There are certain, the cattle they bring into the system have to meet certain requirements. There are no hormones or antibiotics, and I always say no styrofoam, that type of thing. But um, when you're feeding them out, when you're trying to get them finished so they can go to the plant and be on the rail, what's the time frame for that? I mean, with cattle, it's 3-4 months. So
Yeah, so it's going to be the entire from birth to the time that they go to the processing plant is about 6 months.
okay,
So they'll be, and it varies a little bit because we have some farms that we call, they actually go from the nursery into the same barn that they will actually be finished out. Some of our operations have they go from, and they're about 21, 22 days on average when they're weaned. And then they go into a nursery and then they'll stay there to about 40, 50 pounds and then move over to finishing. So it varies a little bit, but the entire process is about 6 months from birth to processing.
that's very quick in
Yeah.
comparison to, I mean, I think chickens are faster, but that's about it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
And then,
it's pretty fast.
yeah, how much you get 2 cycles a year?
A little over that out of a sow. It's like
Yeah,
2 point something or another. So yeah.
right. Yeah, interesting, interesting. We've been talking to and we'll continue to talk with David Eaheart, Senior Director of Comms and Brand Marketing over at Prairie Fresh and that. And David's been very kind to take time to be with us today. So we will not abuse him until the after hours segment. I promise that. Listen to Leanne's little giggle there.
Yes.
She knows what's coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to take a break and we're going to be back and wrap up the regular show with David and Leanne right after this. You're listening to BBQ Nation. See, I failed to mention that, David, in my emails to you about the after hour stuff. So
Are you sure you're recording?
yeah, my little red light's on. Why?
Huh. I see the words up there and I didn't see them.
Oh, it's up there in my upper left-hand corner.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be not a good thing.
No.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to BBQ Nation. I'm JT, along with Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen and David Eaheart to talk about hogs today. David is the Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing over at Prairie Fresh. Also, real quick, we'd like to thank the Oregon Crab Commission. From sea to plate there, it's good stuff. If you've never had Oregon Dungeness crab, or actually Dungeness crab from up and down the West Coast, but I think Oregon's chunk of the ocean is pretty cool. So you can check that out online at OregonCrabCommission.com. So David, we've got about 7 minutes here before we wrap this part of the show. What's the biggest thing you think you've learned about not only your job, but dealing with people in the ag world and specifically in the hog markets?
I don't know if I've probably reaffirmed what I have always thought is, especially in this part of my job, getting to deal with the barbecue world, is the kindness and the generosity of people. Yeah, it's a competitive world, but people thrive off of that. I personally do too. But still, people are willing to help out each other, and it's just fun to see the community that's built with that. It doesn't make any difference if I, go to a part of the country that I haven't been to very much and don't know anyone. You're almost immediately embraced. And I see that, obviously since I'm supplying a lot of the product or that, I have a little different perspective on it, but I see it with new teams that are up and coming and how they're being coached. And, um, you know, it, it's, it makes me feel good to know that there's still good people out there, and there's this whole group that's really encouraging each other, and it's a great community to be involved in. That's probably the thing that makes me feel the best. And I don't think I realized that until I got involved in this side of it.
Are you guys doing work with the junior or the high school or the youth? There's different titles from different parts
Yeah,
of the
we
country.
have some. And so we do quite a bit of work with Melissa Cookston and her World Junior Barbecue League. So we have some activities planned with her this year, and done some things with MBBQA, as well as they've done some stuff with their Future Q program as well, and a little bit with the high school barbecue associations as well. Because for us, there's a couple of reasons why we love to support youth, but we also recognize that we need more youth to understand career opportunities that are involved in agriculture and food production. And so that's why we really want to support that. It's one of our pillars within our community relations is fueling education. So that's why we're out there not only looking more trade skills, but also just getting people that, especially at that level, younger generation, to recognize that there's an opportunity in, whether it be on the farm level, the processing level, or food service, retail. There's a lot of opportunities, no matter what your interest is, that probably can be connected to food.
So how do you deal with people that they don't eat meat? They think it's a horrible thing, commercial farming. You said it right off the top of the show, some activism. I'm being very kind in my descriptive words here. But as a senior comm director, how do you deal with them?
So I think a lot of time for us, we're willing to listen. If someone treats us with respect, we're going to treat them back with respect, and give us an opportunity. And I've dealt with some people that have been definitely on the opposite side of the fence where I stand. But I've had some really good conversations with them. And our position is that everyone should have a choice. That's what part of living in the United States is. We're lucky we can have choices. And so I'm willing to listen to your viewpoint. If you're on the opposite side of the fence, I just ask that you listen to my viewpoint too. I'm not going to necessarily probably change your mind. If you're an activist, you're probably not going to change my mind either. But I'm willing to listen and address those things. And there's a lot of people that are on the middle of the road that just really want to know things too. They've heard things. So we just really try, first of all, be very transparent. We want to share what we do. So if you go to our website, you're going to see a lot of pictures of inside barns and on the processing floor, because people typically are fearful of things that they don't know or they don't have access to. So that's really the key, is to explain to them, if we can get that opportunity, and show and be transparent.
It always kind of amazes me, and I know I'm probably speaking for Leanne here, but she can chime in on this. It always amazes me how people will stand there at the meat counter in Safeway and not understand how it got there in the shrink wrap right in front of them. I that's just something that's always kind of perplexed me. I guess growing up on a farm, you take it for granted, and all three of us grew up on farms at one point or another. But the point is, it's like, yeah, it started on four legs and now it's on your plate. How do you think it got there?
Yeah.
I definitely think that a lot of people don't think about that. I mean, it even boils down to most products, even Oreos. Do they really think about what goes into the process of making an Oreo? No, they want their Oreos.
It's kind of like the old saying, you never peel the skin off a hot dog. type thing. And, but I'm just, like you said, David, it's transparency. I personally think people should know, um, for their own benefit, their own health and welfare and safety and that, but also how things are made. And I think all of us sitting on this show today were curious from a young age. When you grow up on a farm, you're curious. You're curious of how the little eggs turned into little birds, and then the little birds got to bigger birds and sitting in the trees or whatever. That's a very simplistic example, but um, I just think people should know, for their own reasons.
Yep, I agree with that. And there's also a certain amount of respect when you really understand it.
Yeah.
Um, you're taking a living being to actually provide sustenance to us. So you should respect that piece of meat. And I had a culinary instructor tell me that in culinary school, and I remember that to this day. So we're going to do everything, to make sure that we aren't wasting it, that we're creating a great experience from it. And if you understand the process, you can have that respect for it.
Yeah, and I think that goes too for I used to do a lot of hunting and fishing. Um, always respected the animal, never tried to over harvest anything, all the things that people kind of talk about today, but that was just the way it was when we grew up. I mean, you learned that. Our parents, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, taught you those things. So anyway, I think it's good. Where do you see, we've got about a minute here before we go into after hours, David. Where do you see Prairie Fresh 5 years from now?
Well, I think that the brand's going to still be even more stronger than what it is today and have a bigger presence. Um, and that's something we're very focused on is, maintaining that brand integrity, something that's a high quality product. But I think you're even going to see the Prairie Fresh brand out there more in the next 5 years.
I'm seeing it now here. I live way out here on the West Coast in Oregon, and I've started to see it in a lot of the stores around here, which a couple of years ago I didn't. So you guys are doing good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do your competitors get a hold of the prime if it's such a small percentage of what you produce?
It is a challenge. So we have a lot of barbecue stores that we're able to get into that distribution for competitors to come buy. And some of those actually do mail orders. So, but it is a challenge because it is a limited product.
Right.
But you can buy Prairie Fresh Natural, and I know teams that have bought Prairie Fresh Natural at a Walmart and have won a grand championship with it too. So
There you go. We got to get out of here, at least for this part of the show. David Eaheart, Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing for Prairie Fresh, i.e. Seaboard Foods. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
thank you.
It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. And David is going to stick around for after hours. Ha ha ha. So for Leanne and myself, we'd like to thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with, I think Meathead is next week. Woo boy. There you go. That's always a fun one. But we'll be back. And till then, remember our motto, turn it, don't burn it. Take care, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to After Hours here on BBQ Nation. I'm Jeff along with Leanne, and we've got David Eaheart today with us. Am I saying that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Senior Director of Communications and Brand Marketing for Prairie Fresh. If you haven't had Prairie Fresh ribs or any of their pork, I would recommend you give it a shot. That's it's really something. One thing you said in the real show before we get on with the after hours here, David, is when you said the FDA doesn't really rate the carcasses, you guys do. You have your own machine there. How long did it take you to design that technology to, find the marbling and stuff in the meat?
It was in the works for a good 3 to 4 years.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we validated. So we brought in one plant at a time, and we validated each plant. And that was about a 6 to 8 month process, even after we brought the equipment into the second and third plants each.
Cool. 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 All right. This is where we do lightning round. I don't know how you would best describe these questions and where they take us, but you'll figure it out. Okay.
They're all over the board.
They're all over the board. So let's start with a relatively easy one. If you could cook for, then dine with a historical figure, David, who would it be and what would be on the menu? They can be with us or long gone.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think he was so pivotal in the way he shaped this country. And then I probably would serve him. I have to be prairie fresh pork. A pork tenderloin. That's my favorite cut.
There you go. There you go. You know, you're not the first person to say Lincoln, but you were the first person that actually gave a real good reason for it, as far as pivotal in the way he's shaping the country. Most of them just found him fascinating, which is true.
Or too thin and needed to eat.
Too thin and needed to eat. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, if you started your career all over again, would you choose the same path? It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah,
because...
it is. And I haven't veered very far off, but I probably would. Because I'm thrilled with where I ended up and the pathway that led to it. And sometimes it wasn't the most direct route, but
Yeah.
I can't see myself any other place.
Okay. That's easy. If Leanne declared you supreme ruler of barbecue for one day, just one day, but what would you as supreme ruler decree? And then once you decreed it, it was law.
Geez, that's a tough one. I think about that for a second. Oh, really, I hadn't ever thought about that. So maybe something along the lines of everyone always have fun with it.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. David, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much barbecue do you eat on a regular basis? And that can encompass just grilling or cooking outside on a flat top or charcoal, whatever. That's a broad definition here. But how much do you eat on a regular basis?
About a 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's a lot.
that
it
is
is.
a
Yeah,
lot.
it is. It really is
So-
one of my favorite foods.
Yeah, that's
oh
good.
yeah. What's one of the worst places you've ever had to cook? You know, pick up the tongs and the spatula, and what's the worst place that David had to cook?
I probably just a campsite. It's probably the worst.
Yeah.
I've been pretty
Yeah.
fortunate.
There you go. There you go. Was Chris Lilly, wasn't it, Leanne, in the snow in his underwear with his kid?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. That's a different question anyway, coming down the
Yeah.
line. David, if you were an animal, what animal would you be and why? You probably wouldn't be a hog because, you know, that's a fairly short lifespan.
Yeah, but it's hard for me not to say a pig because I'm so fascinated with them. And that came from growing up on the farm. I would
Yeah.
spend hours out in the pig pen just with them. I just still fascinated with them today.
Aren't they second only to like a dolphin in intelligence or
Yeah, they're
something?
extremely smart.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I always thought they were funny too, especially when they're little.
Yeah.
I wish they could talk.
Didn't you ever watch Charlotte's Web? Come on, they can talk.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first thing you ever grilled, barbecued, or smoked? And I'm not talking about what you did in college. I'm talking about food.
Yeah. I think it was probably a beef steak on the grill as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
You
we
know,
have
when
a lot of beef too.
you said a minute ago about how many times you barbecue you eat.
Yeah.
Is it mostly pork, or do you integrate beef and chicken and fish or whatever? What's your
Yeah.
ratios there?
To be honest, at home, I will eat a lot more fish and chicken than I do pork because I eat
Okay.
a lot of pork here at the office.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure. If we put David's skills to music, what would the music be?
What would the music be? Something fun like Uptown Funk or something like that. So
Sure.
There you go.
Sure. Sure. Um, what would be, I'll phrase it this way, what would be your suggestion for the biggest change that you think could or should be made regarding competitive barbecue?
probably not the first person to say this. I'm concerned about being accessible to everyone because it's become such an expensive sport. So can we get
Right.
more to single meats or smaller cuts or something that's, first of all, not as time consuming as expensive?
Yeah. Nope, we lost your picture there, David.
Oh, wonder what
That's
happened.
okay. I don't know. It'll come back. It'll come back. Um, when you go to
There
a
you are.
competition, when you go to competition barbecue, is there part of it, one category that's your favorite? Obviously, you're going to root for the pork division, but is there one in particular that you really, really like? Maybe it's desserts because you won the award with the rye pie.
I am fascinated what they do with the desserts. I'm gonna go tell you that'll be true. Pork ribs. I'm not a huge rib fan when it comes to eating them. I appreciate a really good rib, so I think that's why I enjoy seeing people do extremely well with that category.
You know who else likes desserts? That lady in
Me,
front of
I
the
love
grouper there.
desserts. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We when we were in Texas, what, 3 years now ago, um, we walked by and looked at like the meat behind us. That's some behind me there. Yeah, that's great. Off we go to the kids who were in baking out the desserts then, and she went back to the same tent like 5 times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all good. David, what's one thing you miss about your 20s? I know you're only 31, so what's one thing you miss about your 20s?
Um, my ability to water ski like I used to.
That kind of
Ah.
gone by the wayside a little bit?
Yeah.
Is it still water skiing or is it just water floating on being drugged behind a boat?
Yeah, that's it. I hardly even get behind the boat anymore. Other than jumping off the side.
I
So
got it. I got
but
it.
that was one of my passions when I was in my 20s.
Barefoot, single ski?
Single slalom
Th-
skier.
There you
Yes,
go.
I was a water skier as well.
I was a scuba diver, so there you go. I like to go beneath the water, and I like to fish. Anyway, what do you want to do when and if you ever retire?
I would like to, this sounds a little crazy, but not get away from food. I think it'd be fun to like do special events, like jump in and cook, um, either like for a caterer or something like that. That I get to spend more time in the kitchen because I don't get to do that
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. What's the hardest part of your job?
now. Managing multiple tasks at once. Um, we have, we get hit with customer inquiries, consumer inquiries, just internal things. There's a lot going on. When you mentioned during the regular interview, you know, I get about 300 to 400 emails a day.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So you have a team that handles that?
Yeah, but it's hard to keep up with it. Emails
Yeah.
is definitely the hardest part of the job.
Yeah. To me, I don't, I get 250 a day anymore. Um, Probably 30
That's a
of them.
lot.
Yeah. But probably about 30 of them are worth actually reading and dealing with. And the others, either people want something or they want to, I get a lot of emails from PR firms want to be on the shows or something like that.
Oh.
Um, but I found sorting through them takes a little more time. Some of them you can just dismiss out of hand because you recognize the person writing it and you know they're from Madison Avenue or whatever, and it's not somebody you deal with. Anyway, doesn't matter. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, it's easy. To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ah.
Yes, absolutely. Um, if you could work with one of your barbecue heroes, David, who would the hero be? Besides Leanne, who would it be?
Um,
He's got to be very careful
I
with
know,
this.
I know.
because we didn't talk about my ambassador list, so.
Yeah, no, I retract the question. Sorry, that's unfair.
Okay,
It'd be a
let me
group.
rephrase it like this. If you could work with one of your barbecue heroes that was not in your ambassador program, and that they lived in South Africa, who would it be?
I would be an honored if I mean I get to work with our ambassadors all the time, but it would be fun just to like cook with them all the time. There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
What do you think the barbecue skill that took you the longest to master? I mean, you've been to culinary school, you've got a very, diverse background in food and in farming and all that, but there always seems to be one skill, whether it's a particular cut of meat or whether it's the timing or whether it's the trimming or the temperature, whatever it is. What's one that you think it took you the longest to master?
And I think I'm still mastering it. So if I have to deal with true like live fire,
Yeah.
I still struggle. Either it goes really well or it doesn't, and I still haven't completely mastered in a live fire situation. I love playing with it. But I
Yeah.
haven't played with it enough.
I'm not sure, and Leanne will probably correct me on this, which is fine. I'm not sure everybody or anybody, I should say, 100% of the time masters live fire. Leanne?
I think there's a level that you get to that you understand it and how it works with all of the factors that are around it. And I do think that there's a knowledge level, but that's what's so cool about cooking with live fire. It's never the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's what's so intriguing about it. But no, I don't think that anyone fully masters it, but I think there are people that fully understand it.
Yeah. No, I would accept that. So, what is the best day for David Eaheart contained for activities away from work? Away from work.
So say that again. So it's
What is the best day for David contained
okay.
with activities, but
Okay.
away from your job?
For me, it's setting out on the boat on the lake.
Yeah.
Anytime I can do that, it's the only time I turn off.
What lake are you near?
So Lake of the Ozarks is about 2.5 hours away, and I have a lake home at Lake of the Ozarks. So
Very nice.
Oh. Do you fish?
I do
There you go. What do you fish for there?
mostly crappie.
Mostly crappie.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Good eating.
Okay. Dire Straits, AC/DC, or Billy Ray Cyrus?
I have to say Billy Ray.
Okay. There you go. Um, boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Boxer
There you
briefs.
go. That
Okay.
seems to be the thing.
That seems to be the thing. Yeah. Especially if you're Chris Lilly cooking in the snow at the Jack or whatever it was. I don't remember. It was a funny exchange. That
Yeah.
was a couple of
Yeah.
years ago, though. Sweatshirts or formal wear?
Oh, sweatshirts.
Okay. Worst concert you ever attended?
I don't know. I haven't been to that many. I don't go to that many concerts. Unfortunately, they've all been really good.
Yeah. Okay. If you could erase one mistake from your past, what would it be and why? You're turning red there, David. I just want to tell you. I thought I'd pass
Think
that
about
along.
this for a second. One mistake that I could probably the thing I regret the most is that I didn't take more food science classes in college.
Yeah. Yeah, I could say that too. What's your idea of a dream menu?
Oh,
Don't have to be 15 items, just
yeah.
or a dinner or something.
Yeah, I love um burn ends, even though it's not pork.
Yeah.
So anything you put burn ends on is probably good with me, and like a really good vegetable. I love a grilled vegetable too. I'm pretty basic when it comes to that.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously it has to have some amazing dessert, and it's probably some type of mousse-based dessert.
Ah.
There you go. There you go. Okay, this is the one that usually makes people kind of go, "Oh." What would your last meal be on death row?
That's pretty easy. Um, and it's a little bizarre. I
Uh-huh.
love grilled liver and onions.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're in a very small percentile.
It was one of my, it was one of the things that I craved as a kid. My mom would make, and I
That's
still
so
love it to this
odd.
day. Yeah,
Did she put bacon in it?
yeah, I'm sure she did. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still love it.
Interesting.
I never understood why people didn't like it.
You know,
Wow.
I my mom made it, pan fried it,
Yeah,
right? And then put the onions in about the time she flipped the liver over and they would all meld together and all that. I always liked it, but a friend of mine in college, um, we went to some cafe and they had liver and onions and I ordered liver and onions and his name was David too. And he said, that stuff tastes like dirt. I said, no, it tastes like liver and onions. It's really good. Um, no, it tastes like
Oh,
dirt.
very unusual.
Yeah. So anyway, we have that in common, David. We have that in common.
you have a good day.
Last question here for you, buddy. This is your chance to deliver David Ehart's message to the world. What would your message to the world be?
Pretty simple. Um, never to be take yourself too serious about anything, but still give her a whole heart in everything you do.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very
Nicely
nice.
done.
Where can people find out, David? This is the interrogation is over. Where can people find out more about Prairie Fresh? And I should have done this in the regular show. You want to lay some websites on them and stuff?
Yeah, so we have our website, which is prairiefresh.com. You can also go to seaboardfoods.com and get there as well. We're also on all the social channels of Instagram and Facebook, so we have a pretty strong presence on those, and we're at Prairie Fresh on both of those channels.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah, David Eaheart, Senior Director of Communications and Marketing for Prairie Fresh. Thank you. You've been a great sport, by the
Yeah.
way. I appreciate
Very
it.
good.
Appreciate
Very
it.
Appreciate the opportunity.
informative.
Yes. Really so. We'll be back next week with another edition of After Hours. And we want to thank David for again putting up with us today on the regular show and then After Hours here. So, David, again, thank you.
Yeah.
And for Leanne and myself, we will be back next week abusing another another guest here on Barbecue Nation. I hope you all have a great week. Take care. And remember our motto, turn it, don't burn it.